Krásný dobrý den, Sparťani a Sparťanky. Vítáme vás z německého Grassau, kde právě probíhá tréninkový kemp. A jak už jsme vám v posledním videorozhovoru představili, je tu další člen revelačního týmu. Přede mnou sedí Ian Coll. Ian, welcome here.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
And we're gonna talk for hours together.
1 hour or two.
Yeah. Let's start with a classic question, you know, when we have no topic. So, the weather today. It was really Scottish, right?
Yeah, very Scottish. Actually, it was interesting. People ask me, it's Scottish weather, but it's the first time in probably 2 years I've experienced rain like that, honestly, because Las Vegas and then Croatia, you don't get a lot of rain. So yeah, it was nice.
And how many times today you got this question about Scottish weather?
I think off everyone.
Of everyone, okay. So I'm like the 50th in the row.
Yeah, you're the last one to ask.
Okay. The next one we're gonna punch.
Okay.
But let's go on the beginning. Where did this passion to football started? You know, where did young Ian was standing and thinking about football?
I think from the minute I could walk. I think from my grandfather really, and being a Celtic season ticket holder, and you know, showing me that passion for football was always there when I was young. So I think it started, as soon as I can remember. That's my first memory.
And were you playing football, or you know, because you are the sports scientist, you are here as the head of the performance department. So was it like, I don't know, until 15 years old you've been wishing that you're gonna be a pro footballer, or the idea of being a sports scientist was, you know, the first one?
No, I played football until I was 21, which was like semi-professional. So it was like fourth tier in Scotland back then. So it was never professional, and I played to 21, and I was never good enough. So I stopped playing. I travelled the world for a year, South Africa, Australia, America, and then I went to university because my second passion was health and fitness. It was developing those skill sets, those attributes within football. So I went to university to educate myself to be able to do that professionally.
Did you were thinking, you know, like, I started with football, so what should I do now? Or did the idea of, you know, data and sports sciences was in you many years before?
No, yeah, I mean, when I played football, I was fit and fast. The problem was the ball for me, so that was a big problem. So I think probably my passion for running and sprinting and being strong was always, I guess, as a young age, and I think that probably continued on to what will I do next when I didn't make it in football. Was a natural progression for me was to go into sports science back then, and back then data wasn't such a big thing. It was testing data then. Back then we didn't have GPS. We had heart rate a little bit, but as it's progressed, we're talking about wellness data now, sleeping data, you know, heart rate variability data, all the faculty testing that we do. It wasn't like that back then 20 years ago.
During the studies, you were starting in Ardray, am I right?
Yeah, after United, yeah, that was my first club. Yeah, so they were first division club. When I was at university, I volunteered for 1 year in my last year of studies, and then after that year of studies, they offered me a full-time job.
There was Ardray, and then pretty short after that was a Celtic. So
yeah.
So there was a full-time job in Ardray, and Celtic called?
No, there was actually, the job was advertised. And I applied back then. It was always my dream to play for Celtic. I wasn't good enough, so the second dream was to work for Celtic. So I achieved that dream quite early in my career, although it was the youth academy back then. Youth academy 4 years, and then the first team for 4 years.
As you said, you went to the academy as a sports scientist, and then after a few years you switched to the first team. So tell me, what are the differences when you're working with data with the in the youth team and then in the first team? Because I can imagine that there is a different approach.
Yeah, the approach is simple. Simple to some, I guess, but one is really honed in on development. Another one is honed in on performance. So in the first team, we need to perform every match. But I also like to think and consider my methodology is also about development. And that probably comes from my passion for player development. So I think I've always continued that and always will continue it. So mainly in youth, it's about developing that young athlete from the age of 9 all the way through to the age of 21. And the first team is about really them performing. But I think there's still a development pathway for players even in the first team.
And if you should compare, you know, the things we track and what you were tracking back then in the beginning, is it, you know, twice as much?
Oh, I think 4 or 5 times as much now. I think it's really, really invasive for the players, and I think it's trying to get the balance. Some practitioners really rely on a real heavy data-driven process for the players. I'm probably somewhere in between, because I think there needs to be some leeway for the players to breathe, and it's not always tracking the data. They need time to make their own decisions. They need time to give a human connection to myself and to the coaches, that we need that contact with them and that honesty and integrity and how they actually feel. So we talk about wellness questionnaire, about numbers and collecting sleep hours and fatigue and soreness, but actually a communication with the player is a higher value for me than it is the data. For one example.
Was it that moment that you and sports sciences, you caught the situation, this was the right time you stepped into the Celtic when the sport and sports sciences and data were uprising? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, in Celtic, we were one of the first teams to wear GPS in a European match, and one of the first teams to wear GPS in an actual official match. So FIFA gave the actual regulation that we could wear it. So that was right at the start of the process. So for me, the GPS in games was very, very new data. I think we were very at the start of it, along with other clubs. And I think it was really interesting at the time, because we always thought, how much does a player run? We never knew. You could look on TV and, you could say, oh, he sprinted there, well, he ran there, he did a high press there, but we didn't actually know the magnitude of that high press. So the GPS gives us the magnitude of the data for that player, the physical outcome for that player, essentially.
As you are saying, you've been the first one. Did you get, anytime soon after you started using it, any calls, show us what you do? Mm-hmm. Can you bring the technique to other clubs, or was it like we should hide this in front of others?
Yeah, I think actually when I left Celtic, probably that's when most of that sort of came. I was asked to present a lot of conferences, maybe because the data I shared with other practitioners and people, and actually through the companies to help support them maybe sell their product, allowed me to be at the forefront of that data collection and presentation and what teams actually do within a game. So I think there probably started a little bit of my presentation background, going to conferences and present data for football teams.
My next question was this, because you were leaving Celtic and you left football. You just went private into private organization to Dubai.
Yeah.
It's, me reading your resume, it really caught my eye. It was quite interesting. He has a really nice career in football, and now he's going private. Yeah. What happened?
I think my son was born. So my son now is 10. And at that time, my son was like 1 year and 3 or 4 months. And he just started to walk. And I think it was a profound moment that maybe was missing part of his life growing up. And as a father, first-time father, it hit me home a little bit that maybe I'm not spending enough time at home with my son at this critical age. And I really wanted that for my son, so I decided to come out of Celtic, and we decided to go to Dubai. My wife's a teacher, so it's a little bit career change. I was still involved in football, so I worked for the federation, and working for the federation, then I was like a consultant to other football clubs to help them establish the sports science program within their club. So I was still involved in football at that time. It was only actually 1 year. It was supposed to be 2, it was supposed to be 2, but it was only 1 year, and I did a presentation in Barcelona, I think like a year before that, and I think their sporting directors were at that presentation, and they contacted me and said, look, we'd like you to establish a sports science department, and it all happened from there.
You also, in Ludogorets, you met a few Czech guys.
Yes.
Pavel Vrba, for example.
Yes.
You had their pretty international team, similar as here, but back then, what were you chatting about?
We had, I think it was 6 or 7 Brazilians in the team. French, Polish, we had UK, we had German, we had a few Bulgarians. So it was fantastic. Romanians as well. So it was really, really interesting for me. It was a multicultural team. I think that was part of the reason, not only their success as a team and playing in Europe, but also that multicultural aspect of the team that drew me to go there at that time so quickly.
Did you also meet Tichy there?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah, I worked with Martin,
Okay, and there was a beginning of a great friendship, right?
Yeah. Even my son still remembers Martin playing football in the garden with me, so it's a really nice story. Still to meet him yet, because obviously been in pre-season, but from one of my birthday parties, we had him over to the house, and he was goalkeeper for my son. So it was a really, really nice story, actually,
So we should do this also in Prague, right?
Yes, of course.
Martin Ticháček is really good guy to come over to birthday party.
Yes, he's the one to invite.
Okay, but you know, moving in your resume after Ludogorets, there was another interesting destination. You then went to Romania and after that Croatia. So you just like, you know, were moving on the football map. So maybe try to quickly summarize this era.
So at Ludogorets, there was 3 Romanian players in the team. 2 of those players were international players. And through them, they knew the owner of the club in Romania. They were looking for a new head of performance in that role. It was time for me to leave Bulgaria. My son was growing up and there was no schooling for my son there, unfortunately, so it was time to move on. So University Craiova was the next move due to the recommendation from the players that were at Ludogorets. In the time at Ludogorets, I worked for a coach, Valdis Dombrovskis. In the time I was at Romania, he was just moving to Hajduk Split, and he called me and said, "Would you like to come to Hajduk Split?" So that's how it worked.
And also in Hajduk, you shifted a bit your role, right? You came there as a sports scientist,
yeah.
And from the fitness coach, let's say, you became an assistant of a manager.
Yeah, I think when I was there with my coach, I was head of fitness. My coach unfortunately got sacked after we finished second and won the cup for the first time in 9 years. That's football. The club actually asked me to stay as part head fitness and in a coaching role, which then developed into a full coaching role because I hold my UEFA A license. It was just the club asked me to do it. They seen maybe some qualities in me during the training that felt that I could help the incoming coach. The incoming coach was a Croatian coach, an ex-player, so I think maybe me being there for so long and the transition to get him into the club, maybe it was just to help him, knowing at the end of the season I was going to leave. So, but it was nice to be asked by the club, nice to know that they recognise some qualities in you, and yeah, that's a nice thing in football.
It opens quite interesting topic because, you know, you were also during your career studying the UEFA licenses.
Yeah.
So is it something which was always in your plan, you know, like, okay, I'm here sports scientist, I'm gonna study the data, you know, doing this, you know, pioneer work, and then, but, you know, I would really like to go to coaching.
Yeah, I think my first thought when I stopped playing football was probably to be a coach, because there was no real strength and conditioning sports. There was no head of fitness, there was no head of performance back 20 years ago. There was maybe a young guy who did like warm-ups. That was really the main content, you know, or maybe someone that worked in the gym doing something. So that role wasn't really available. So my first degree was sports coaching. My second degree was sports science, because after the sports coaching degree, I realised there's no pathway for me to get into coaching. You know, I'm not an ex-player, I don't have any of my licenses, so there was no real pathway. So my real passion was the fitness side of things, so that's how I went into the fitness at that time. But I've always had a passion for coaching, and I did my UEFA A. I think it helps me my role, if I understand what the coaches want, what the club want, what's their vision, their style of play. It allows me to understand that as a professional, and then it helps me apply my own methodology, I guess, more deeper, more having an understanding of what the coach wants as well.
If you are talking about your methodology, you mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, the tactical periodization?
Yes, that's correct, yeah. So I studied tactical periodization through the Portuguese method of coaching, which is the Frade method. It's what method Jose Mourinho uses, 𝒂𝒏 used, a lot of top coaches use it now. And my passion for coaching and education led me into that course. And it's more about, I guess, neuroscience really, rather than coaching actually, because the expectation is that you can actually coach when you enter the course, and it's more giving you a science-based, evidence-based coaching practice or method that helps you develop players. So in a roundabout way, it's science, it's sports science, but in a coaching aspect, I guess.
Okay, so if I get it correctly, it basically means that, you know, everything you do physically wise on the pitch supposed to be in a training mode, you know, in the tactical mode, you know, everything in the preparation of what the particular player is gonna do on the pitch.
That's correct. Yeah, that's exactly that. I mean, my golden rule is that every exercise, every movement pattern I give to the player must transfer to the pitch to make them better.
Tady končí zkrácená verze rozhovoru. Zbytek najdete na Unlimited, kde se dozvíte například, jak funguje metodologie tréninku v rámci kempu.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's normally always a Sáďo in every team, but Sáďo is probably a different level of that type of player. The boy just doesn't want to stop. Even yesterday we had a recovery session, and at the end of the recovery session he said, "Coach, I'd like to run some more." And I said, "But Sáďo, it's a recovery session and the whole purpose is to recover." You know, and he said, "It's pre-season, coach, I want to run more." And I said, "Yes, we have the methodology. This is the methodology. Okay, do 4 runs just to make you happy." You know, so there's emotional, like I said, there's emotional side. I could say, "No, you're not running, Sáďo," you know, and be a boss and be a sergeant, you know, but I know, again, go back to my education, tactical periodization, that will frustrate him as a player. He will be upset and maybe underperform, or maybe I might lose my respect with him. So my communication was to him, understand who you are as a player and how you feel. And I think it's fantastic if you want to run. Here's some limits. This is the limit, Lo. Don't go beyond this limit, because I knew if I just let him go, he would go.